We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown. Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to our instant analysis on the Buckeye Breakdown podcast. I'm Brendan Gulick with you, covering remotely tonight after Ohio State's 2-touchdown win on the road in Madison. And I suppose if we would have said at the beginning of the night the Buckeyes would win by 2 scores, there's plenty of reason to be hopeful, and you'd probably take it. This game had a little bit of a weird feeling to it. There was probably a little bit more of a survive and advance kind of feel than maybe we would be comfortable seeing from this Ohio State team. There were certainly some really, really good things. Marvin Harrison continued to show that, you know, when you want to be considered the best player in college football, you have to be able to make plays when your team desperately needs it and when your opponent knows there's a good chance you're getting the ball. And Marvin Harrison has done that several times throughout the course of the year, and he certainly did it again here tonight. TreVeyon Henderson, a monster game for Ohio State. I don't know that I have appropriately, outwardly appreciated how good Trey is when he is 100% healthy and how much different Ohio State looks when he is on the field and full go. And maybe it's because we haven't seen a ton of that because he's tried to battle through injuries the last couple years and maybe go out and show the toughness and play when he's not quite where he needs to be, but, you know, largely good enough. And I just thought tonight when TreVeyon had a chance to showcase his incredible skill set, he did it. And it came on a night where the Buckeyes really needed it. Gosh, they really needed him to run the football well. And by the way, be a great weapon out of the backfield. So Marvin Harrison Jr., TreVeyon Henderson, I think you could really make the case that those two guys are a humongous part of why Ohio State won this game. Maybe not single-handedly, but certainly a big part of why the Buckeyes pulled off a win on the road. I think they combined for 330 of the team's 407 yards of total offense. Just crazy, crazy offensive numbers. 24 carries for 162 and a touchdown for TreVeyon. He also had 4 catches for 45 yards. And Marvin Harrison Jr. on 10 targets had 6 catches for 123 and 2 scores. So certainly those are two big offensive highlights. And since I want to start the show quickly on a positive note, defensively, another great night. You know, you go on the road and you hold a Wisconsin team that's got a lot of tradition and a lot of pride and a lot of physicality. You hold them to 1 score and 10 total points. Pretty darn good, all things considered. Well aware of the fact they're playing a backup quarterback and that, you know, Braylon Allen played half the game and that arguably their best receiver missed half the game as well. Totally understand that Wisconsin was a bit shorthanded. But Ohio State did a really, really good job tonight of figuring out how to not let this thing get away from them, giving up some catches on some underneath routes, even at a few points of the game where they gave up some 20-yard receptions. Not a big deal. Never gave up anything over the top. Again, continues to be one of the best defenses in the country in terms of not allowing big plays. Kept everything in front of them, put good pressure on lock throughout the night. And I really think Tommy Eichenberg had maybe his best game of the year as a Buckeye. I thought Tommy was absolutely freaking unbelievable tonight. Finished the game with 7 tackles, and it felt like he had 17 tackles because he was in on everything. His performance down in that goal line stand at the end of the first half was terrific. So there were certainly some really good moments for the Buckeyes, and I think when you win games, you got to start with what went well. Let's not just pull the fire alarm here. And the reality is, you know, you could be Oklahoma. Could have lost to Kansas today. You got to figure out a way to just enjoy a win when you get it and figure out a way to keep building. That said, a little bit of a weird night. Yeah, a little bit weird. Some injury stuff, some dysfunctional moments, some clunkiness, and Kyle McCord's worst game as a Buckeye, probably. And I'm not saying he played terrible. He played fine, but he didn't play great. I think he was certainly good enough, but there were some tough moments tonight. The first interception, not a good decision. You cannot throw that ball. I really didn't have a huge problem with the second pick. I mean, obviously, when you see an interception, it frustrates you. But I thought that cornerback played a really nice play, kind of coming off cover 3 on the side, and just he picked it. So, sometimes that's going to happen when you try to drive the ball down the field and when you're trying to get the ball to playmakers. It happens to Ohio State's defensive credit. They did not allow points off of either of those interceptions. I don't really know how to verbalize the frustration on the intentional grounding calls. I don't know if it's Kyle getting just super uncomfortable because he feels the pressure. He's got nowhere to go, and he's like, I don't want to sack fumble. I'm just going to throw it. Can't do that. There were a couple of intentional grounding calls tonight that, I would love to be a fly on the wall in a quarterback film review with him and with Coach Day to just kind of feel like, okay, where's your head here? Like, what is the thought process when making that decision? Because there were 2 intentional grounding calls tonight that I thought were just really, really tough to explain. Maybe just chalk them up to mistakes, and it is what it is. Cade Stover tonight, I thought played okay. A little interesting to me that he never got targeted once. Not once. But I thought he did have a decent impact on the game. In fact, if you go back and watch Marvin Harrison's first touchdown, Cade Stover running a crossing route coming the opposite way really sprung that play. I thought he made some good blocks. I kind of tend to remember more the ones that he missed. And I thought the offensive line tonight it's weird to say that I didn't think they played well for a game where you had 400 yards of offense and you were never like really on the brink of losing. But I admired what Wisconsin did because I feel like Wisconsin's strategy when things were getting a little wonky, it was, hey, we're going to put Kyle under extreme pressure and see if he makes a mistake because he hasn't been perfect. And I don't blame Wisconsin for trying to attack with that strategy. It was reasonably effective. And if Ohio State had better offensive line play, then I don't know that Kyle would have made some of those decisions tonight. But again, I don't want to be like overly critical because you could make an argument this was Ohio State's best offensive line performance in terms of run blocking. Obviously, Travion had a big night, and it's not like he had half of his rushing yards on one carry where maybe the stats are a little skewed. The team obviously was banged up tonight, right? Julian Fleming quite obviously was not 100%. Pretty frustrating drop that he had, but still he tried to gut it out. Ryan Day alluded to it in the postgame interview with Catherine Tappett on NBC that Emeka Egbuka was really close. Ultimately decided they didn't want to try to put him out there tonight. I actually liked the strategy with Xavier Johnson early in the game. It felt like Ohio State was better with speed to either the boundary or field side, just getting wide because they felt like they were faster than Wisconsin's defense. And I liked some of those play designs, especially for Xavier Johnson. But when it's a weird feel offensively when Cade Stover's never targeted, Emeka Egbuka's not on the field, period, and Julian Fleming is obviously not 100%. And Kyle looks a little clunky. And let's try to be fair here. Wisconsin's, I thought especially their defensive front, played really solid. They're pretty good. I don't think they're elite, but they're pretty good and they're tough. Um, so this was a good test for Ohio State, and there were obviously some frustrating moments where you see guys get hurt. Uh, I hope Lathan Ransom's okay. Non-contact injuries stink, and I hope that he is not going to miss much time. Ryan Day really wouldn't go into what was exactly wrong with Lathan, but um, I remember seeing it exactly as it happened. The camera quickly panned off, and I thought to myself, like, did Lathan come up limping there? And all of a sudden, 5 seconds later, they're back on him, and he's sitting on the bench. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So it just felt like one of those nights. JT Tuimoloau out, takes some friendly fire from Jack Sawyer, gets smoked. I'm glad JT was okay, but obviously got a little banged up. Tough night in that regard. And I think Ohio State showed that, they can find ways to win tough games when they have to. And I guess I'll just kind of finish with this, because we don't really appreciate these kinds of moments until they really matter. Ohio State's got a heck of a punter in Jesse Mirko. And in a game where your offense is not firing on all cylinders, and admittedly got better as the game went along, but still wasn't fabulous, you need a punter you can lean on. You need a guy that you can say, hey, look, we're willing to play the field position game because the defense is playing well enough. Go pin him back as far as you can. And whether that means literally from the back of your own end zone, kick it as far as you can, or hit it with the appropriate hang time and let our gunners get down and try to down something inside the 20 or inside the 10. I just thought Jesse Mirko had another really, really good night. And, it's not something we're used to seeing with the Ohio State offense typically putting up these ridiculous numbers, right? 45 points a game and skill position guys that are catching passes from first round NFL draft picks. And, we've been really spoiled to watch that in Columbus the last 4 years because Justin Fields and CJ Stroud were fabulous quarterback talents. And I think Kyle is a really good player who's just got to develop more. I am not on camp, why isn't Devin Brown playing? I'm not ready to just say enough is enough with Kyle. And I think some of the stuff that I see on social media and read in message boards, we need to pump the brakes on that, guys. He's fine. He threw two interceptions tonight. It's the first time he'd thrown a pick since the first half of week 1. Let's not overreact to Kyle making a mistake. It's fine. He's a young quarterback. He's developing. He's got a really good skill set. He doesn't have to look like CJ Stroud. And the reality is, let's enjoy a team that has so obviously fixed the problem that bothered the Buckeyes the last 2 years. They couldn't stop giving up big plays. Now they're not giving up big plays. The offense is still scoring 30 to 35 points a game. And Ohio State is largely still winning games comfortably. And that has a lot to do with the fact that the defense has made its case as, if not the best defense in the country, darn it, they are certainly in the conversation, top 2 or 3. So all in all, a good night, not an elite night for Ohio State, but one I think the Buckeyes should enjoy. And the reality is, I know Rutgers is better than they've been 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. The program kind of trending in the right direction. I'm not overly concerned with Rutgers next week. Really not terribly concerned with Ohio State against Michigan State or Minnesota. And so I'm hopeful that the focus here moving forward these next 3 weeks is be as clinical as you can be in executing what your game plan is, and just stay healthy and give yourself a shot to achieve the goals you want to achieve. If you're Ohio State, you're in the position you want to be in. You're 8-0. You got 3 games in front of you that you'll never say out loud are games that you're going to win, but you really should win those 3 games. And November 25th, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, is looming larger and larger up in Ann Arbor. So A good night for the Buckeyes. Not a great night, but certainly some moments that are really worth celebrating. Trevion Henderson, great game. Marvin Harrison Jr., another elite game. Thought Tommy Eichenberg played terrific. Really good work from the defensive line again. And the Buckeyes figured out a way to win in a hostile environment in Madison on the road. Plenty more coverage for you on Ohio State, not just from tonight's game, but certainly the aftermath of the Buckeyes' 8th win of the season. It'll be right here on our YouTube channel. We'd certainly appreciate it if you'd subscribe here, but also know that all the written or I should say all of the written content, part of our coverage is over on BuckeyesNow.com. I'm Brendan Gulick. We'll see you again real soon after an Ohio State win tonight in Madison, 24-10 over the Badgers.